Back on MorningLine, it's our final segment this morning. If you want to join in the conversation, Margie Quin is our guest. She's with the TBI, special agent heading up their efforts to crack down, as you see on the screen, human sex trafficking. If you want to ask a question, that's fine. I understand it's a pretty heavy topic first thing in the morning, but it's something that's worth talking about. I hope you're learning about it and what you can do if you suspect it. A lot going on in the state. We were talking during the break. I think you're thankful to the lawmakers that have taken note of this and passed this. And TBI works in connection with a lot of other agencies around the state that are cracking down on this? I mean, aside from just law enforcement?
Absolutely. The two primary sponsors of the bill that mandates training and gives TBI the additional resources were Senator Ketron out of Murfreesboro and Representative Sargent out of Williamson County. Were our two primary sponsors of that bill. So they really took this on and fought the fight for us down there. Although I think when the bills passed, they were unanimous. Nobody's against this.
How are you going to vote against? That's why it was so amazing to me that other states haven't followed suit. It would be, to me, something easy a lawmaker could say, I want to get some legislation passed. This is something people will get behind.
Right, but they were champions, absolutely champions for us.
That's great. All right, now, one of the things that was recently added to, I guess, your arsenal to go after these folks, because I want to know how you catch the people that are really organizing it and sending these girls out, is wiretapping. And I guess I just assumed if you suspected something, you could go to a judge and offer up the details in a warrant request and then get a tap, which you couldn't always, right? And now it's something that you can tap phones.
It is. The wiretapping statute in the state of Tennessee is very narrowly drawn, which means that we can only seek authority to wiretap under very narrow conditions. So we're talking about Class A drugs, homicide or conspiracy to commit homicide, and gangs.
Okay.
And then now we've added this year human sex trafficking to that list of what we call predicate offenses. So if we can establish probable cause that these offenses are occurring, then we can seek wiretap authority for cell phones and emails, because this is largely now an electronic crime. We don't see scores of women anymore walking up and down the track here in on Dickerson Road, Murfreesboro Road. It's all happening over the internet. So we say that the geography of this crime has changed tremendously. The crime's not occurring on roads and streets and avenues.
You don't see the streetwalkers.
It's occurring on .coms, .orgs, and .nets.
Okay. So give me an example then. So how would the wiretap work? You have a suspicion of someone, sending it out. I don't know. Maybe you get in touch with one of the girls and you find out who she says this is, or how would you set it up?
We recover a girl and she gives us or provides us information, or we get information from some other source that an individual is engaging in sex trafficking, multiple victims. We would really use that sort of tool or technique to go after large networks or individuals who are operating in some organized fashion to traffic girls, either within a contained geographical location like Nashville or Franklin or Memphis, or we would use it to go after individuals who are trafficking girls between the states, which we believe is happening quite a bit. We're very concerned about that I-24, I-75 corridor between the state line and on Kentucky state line and the state line down in Chattanooga.
Because, all right, now what are the laws like in Kentucky compared to here? You said Atlanta has issues.
We have the toughest laws in the Southeast.
Tennessee does.
Absolutely.
So, all right, I guess then the sex offenders, the ones, do they know then this is a state to avoid, do you think? Are we creating an island to, pass through and they want to go down?
Absolutely.
Or they're leaving Tennessee to go elsewhere?
I think when you see sentences like 22 years for Michael Kohlmeyer, for one count of sex trafficking. Douglas Clemens in White County last year was a TBI case, 25 counts of human sex trafficking, received 176 years.
Do you think Kohlmeyer was surprised when he heard the sentence?
I absolutely do.
I mean, in his mind he's thinking, oh, it's a misdemeanor, I didn't do anything, I just tried. He never really hooked up with a girl in this case, right? He was attempting to.
Correct.
And then you nailed him, and he's got 20 years.
But the point is he would have.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I assume he would have if he hadn't been caught.
So when you get sentences like 22 years for Michael Kohlmeyer and 176 years for Douglas Clemens, then the message should be clear. If you attempt to buy a child for sex in this state, you will pay the price and it will be heavy.
Okay. Just curious if this is a dynamic here in Nashville or not. We have this new Music City Center.
Sure.
We get conventions and things like that, which are good things. I don't mean they're not good. And people that come to conventions, just like the one we just had, they're great. But I'm just wondering, when you draw, and Nashville is a destination city, brings people from outside, does that contribute to the issue? I would just think someone who leaves his state or wants to come here and figures this is where he can do his dirty work.
It does, and it's certainly one of the things that we're very concerned about in the state. The Music City Center is a great addition to our city. There's no doubt about it. It's going to bring in a tremendous amount of revenue and culture to our city. But when you have a great influx of people, 70, 80, 90,000 individuals coming into your city, the vast majority of those citizens are coming in and they're law-abiding. Yeah. And they're here to have a great time and spend money in our city, and we welcome that. But you're going to have a pocket that come in, and when they travel and when they're away from home, if they are predisposed to commit these types of crimes, they're going to commit these types of crimes. This is where it would happen. Exactly.
Yeah. So with that in mind, then do you do anything different when you know there's just a huge convention coming to town?
I mean, those are certainly. I mean, if we wouldn't be taking care of public safety if we didn't consider the influx of 70 or 80,000 people into our city. Those could raise public safety issues. They could raise traffic issues. I mean, we're looking at a broad spectrum of issues when you have things like Bristol Motor Speedway. 100,000 people into Bristol. That kind of stuff is happening all across our state, and certainly law enforcement are having conversations and addressing those issues.
Let's take a call from Bob. Hi, Bob. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. I think finally they're doing something. I appreciate it. It's going to help revitalize, I think, some of the churches from being destroyed, per se. And it's covering these strange things, like from that plane guy from Canada that crashed here to, oh, goodness.
Now, what is all of that? I'm not sure what that has to do with this case. What are you talking about with the churches?
Well, I don't want to bring up politics. It goes from Watergate to all the churches. They get, the women go to church to find love, marriage, whatever. Or some of these businesses, even the state was doing something with food stamps.
You can handle that one. Just kidding.
Actually, the faith-based community has really embraced this issue. Yeah. We see a lot of initiative coming out of faith-based, and we're appreciative of that. We have some really robust partners on the nonprofit side and the faith-based side.
Do the churches play a role? I guess the point here is we discussed the problems some of these girls have when they're rescued and they're out of it. I don't know if faith can play a role in that. They have all kinds of psychological issues after the fact.
Certainly.
I don't know, be it churches or otherwise. I just wanted to touch on exactly what it means for when they get out of it. They can be very young at this point when they're rescued, right? They're still underage, so it could be like a 16, 17-year-old that's been in the biz for like 2 or 3 years. So what are they like when they come out? You've seen some of these girls, right?
They're extremely broken. Yeah. In a way that they can be very emotionally shut down, these victims. They can be very flat. Their affect can be very flat. They're very difficult because many times they're not screaming and yelling and crying, and they are so emotionally traumatized that they are completely shut down. And so it's going to take an entire community to welcome them back and provide for them. Do
they often have parents that become back involved? Because I just wonder,
sometimes they do, but many times they do not.
They came from just dysfunctional families in the first place.
And we haven't talked about the fact that we do have that sort of traditional pimp, prostitute looking situation, but we also have, unfortunately in our state, parents who are trafficking their children. Many of these girls who end up out on the street with a traditional pimp were trafficked first by their parents. And we're seeing that. We're making those cases across the state as well.
I was looking at the list of red flags that may indicate whether or not a person is a victim of human trafficking. All right, some basic stuff. Carries hotel keys or card keys?
If you see a juvenile with,
I guess that makes
hotels
sense.
Or car keys, yes.
That's a good point. All right. Inconsistency when describing, things that are going on in their life. I guess that makes sense.
Right.
Unable or unwilling to give local addresses or information about a parent or guardian?
Yes, or you stop them, or they are in a foreign city, they don't know where they are, or they can't give you a home address, they don't have a home address. They're with an older boyfriend or an older male.
That's the next one. Talks about an older boyfriend or an older male that's in their life. All right.
Right.
Prepaid phone card?
Prepaid phone cards, cell phones, and other sort of accessories that they can't afford, or they can't explain where they got.
So an unexplained sudden influx or increase in money, clothing.
Exactly.
So they are then, what do they get out of this. We talked about the drugs and maybe the security of a place to stay if they've been homeless.
Right.
But these guys probably just give them enough of the money to buy. Do they take them shopping or something, or they'll buy them jewelry? I don't know. It depends on the person.
I spent about 5 or 6 hours with a victim a week ago, and she said, you know, he would buy me whatever I wanted if I asked him for it. Now, she couldn't keep any money. She's not allowed to have a cell phone unless she's in the room turning tricks. But she said, you know, if I wanted to go tanning, he would take me to go tanning. So they have this very warped sense of what this individual, this perpetrator, is doing for them or to them. And again, they may be coming from a situation in an extremely impoverished house where they had nothing.
Yeah.
And so these sorts of gifts to them may seem very significant to them. If you're 12 or 13 or 14 years old, the gift of a cell phone or to go get your nails done or your hair done is very significant for them.
And how did, when you talk to them, it's just when you ask them about the actual interaction with the Johns in the rooms, I mean, how do they deal with that? They just, this is something they just block it out? They
do block. The victim that I spent a good bit of time with a week ago would take 5 or 6 Xanax to get herself through it. Right, she just checks out.
And sometimes they're beaten also?
By their pimps, yes. She was severely assaulted.
All right. Well, if there's anything someone takes away from the show that's a viewer out there, the general public, it should be, one, I guess, if you ever suspect this type of thing, the TBI is in a position more than ever before, thanks to what the lawmakers have done in the changes to prosecute these folks. So do something about it.
Exactly.
Report it, right?
Report it.
And the best way to do that, contact local law enforcement or
the human trafficking hotline.
The hotline, okay. And I'll check if we have that. We'll throw that up at the end of the program, I think, you know, when we come back after that. Yeah, make sure you report it. And the bottom line is you're going to keep, if they're out there, you're going to get them, aren't they? You just don't look so mean. You're just so well-spoken and nice.
Thank you.
But you're after them.
We're after them.
You're going to go get them.
They should be on notice.
Sometimes will you pack heat?
Their days are numbered.
Yes, do you hear that?
Absolutely.
Like it. Margie, thank you for coming on. Thank you very much. We appreciate it and great work with the TBI.
Thank you so much.
Take a break, have a programming note when we come back, and we'll see if we also have that TBI hotline number that we can put out as well. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you.